Welcome to another Secret Influence TV interview. Today we are talking to John Hawkey, who has launched a website called freeformideas.com, which is a fantastic resource for entrepreneurs. A lot of the content I share on this channel is aimed at entrepreneurs. It's tips around how to be a better communicator, how to influence more. And I interview a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or speakers or writers. So we're going to be talking about this website that John set up, what it does and who it's for. But first of all, I want to introduce John and find out a little bit more about him. So welcome, John. It's great to have you on the Secret Influence TV show. How are you? You well?
Yes, hello, Nick. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I'd just like to start off and just ask you to tell us a bit about yourself. So what's your career background?
Okay, Nick. Well, I started my business life as a publisher. And I worked for Longman's Green, which is part of the Pearson Group now. And I published educational books in Africa. And I did that for about 10 years. After that, I changed direction and I studied law in England. I read for the bar, and then I went to Australia and I studied accountancy. And in 1985, I went into business on my own, having spent about 5 years in professional practice in Australia, where I worked in insolvency and reconstruction. And when I started in business of my own, I worked in small businesses providing business advice. And I developed a program about exit planning, which I found very interesting because not a lot of work had been done in exit planning in those days. And in Australia, I consulted with small business, and I owned some businesses in quite a diverse range of activities. I returned to the UK in 1999, and one of the first things I did was to turn my exit planning program into a script, and I wrote a book, and in fact I had 2 books published, one by Gower and the other by How To Books. I continued in the UK with my consulting work and owning businesses, and I traded until fairly recently in that area. And then I sort of retired and I decided to set up freeformideas.com.
Fantastic. Wow, you've clearly got an incredibly wealth of experience from working in a variety of sectors around the world. I think I'm a professional copywriter and I've worked in marketing for 25 years, and I'm always learning. I love learning, and I think it's so important nowadays to keep studying whatever area you work in. And one of the greatest things I think about social media, is that you can connect so easily and get other ideas from other people and collaborate, which is why I was so interested in your platform. So clearly you've had a very interesting life, and you've worked in a few different sort of areas. And I'd like to ask you, what do you feel? What's your expertise? What's your sort of skill set in that way?
Well, by training, I'm a non-practicing barrister, and I'm also an accountant. But really, I believe my expertise is in small business. I've been doing that now for about 35 years. I think I'm the sort of person who can anticipate problems, and I can solve problems. And in my work, I have often called on my knowledge of law and accounting, but I believe that it's in small business that I'm most effective.
Okay, certainly accounting and law are 2 things that every business at some stage will need to know about and obviously use those services. I think we all know that so many small businesses close within the first. I think it's 50% of small businesses close in the first year, and then another 20% in the next 2 years after that. I mean, it is very challenging and very, very hard. I think harder than ever to grow a small business nowadays, and a lot of small businesses do have similar challenges. So I think anything that can give us that extra step, resources or the tips to get around some of those challenges is only a good thing. So we're going to move on to now talking about your free form of ideas. So, can you tell us a little bit about what it is and why you started it?
Originally, the idea of free forum of ideas was to help potential entrepreneurs to analyze their business idea and also to see whether they as individuals had what it takes to be an entrepreneur. That was the original idea, but it's moved on considerably since then. Okay,
and you say it's sort of aimed at entrepreneurs. I mean, who is that? Who would you say is aimed at? Who can it help? Who is there a particular group of people, entrepreneurs?
Well, the website now, Nick, has developed, as I said, considerably, and it's aimed now not only at young entrepreneurs, but also people who are setting up a business, existing small business owners, and importantly, business owners who are planning to exit their businesses. So that's the scope now of the website.
Okay, and for people who haven't visited it yet, what would they expect if they go on it? What does the site offer? Can you tell us a bit about it?
Okay, the site contains a lot of information, including over 100 FAQs, frequently asked questions. It has 4 forums. It contains free help, something we call John's blog, which I write. It has articles and members' blogs contributed by our members. I'll give you some specific examples of the free help side of things.
Right.
Firstly, as I mentioned, it provides a free analysis of your business ideas and an analysis of what you're like as an entrepreneur, whether you have what it takes. Secondly, you can go to the website and download for free a Roadmap to Success booklet, which gives you all the basics of setting up, how to set up and to run a business. And thirdly, we've developed quite an interesting worksheet which enables you to analyze and come up with the optimum exit option for your business in your circumstance. A very important part of business planning.
Of course, no, I totally agree. So for the viewers out there, I met John through my copywriting community on Facebook, the number 1 copywriting community. And John is a regular contributor and he shares his blogs within the copywriting community. And I think a lot of the content, all the content is relevant to the people in the community, because people in the community are all entrepreneurs or solopreneurs. And I think they say that if you work for yourself, it can be being an entrepreneur, certainly when you're starting out. And I've had an in-depth look at John's site, free form of ideas. What I like about it, John, is your sort of very helpful information. It's very relevant to anyone in any business, but it's very no nonsense, very practical. You clearly got a long career of experience, and you've got it down to very concise, practical help. So if people have a look at the free form of ideas and perhaps they want to get involved, is there any way they can do that, or what's the way they can do that?
Yes, of course. To get involved, initially, you can just go on the site, see what's there. There's a lot of information, as I mentioned. But more importantly, you can become a member of the site, which is free. And as a member, you can not only read what's on the site, of course, but you can join the forum. You can post a question on the relevant forum. There are 4 forums, and you can access the free help. Also, you can contribute to the site, either an article or a blog. I encourage members to write blogs and articles, which gives them an opportunity to promote their ideas to a wider audience.
Great. So thanks for that, John. So there it is. This is a fantastic opportunity for any of you who's watching this video to share your ideas and share your expertise through the freeform of ideas and reach a wider audience. And that's what we should all be doing if we are entrepreneurs. We should be looking to share our expertise, reach a wider audience, and connect people and collaborate. And this is a great opportunity to do it here. John, I just want to ask, with obviously the COVID situation around the world, there's been a lot of economic challenges, certainly the UK, with a lot of businesses struggling, a lot of businesses having to close, unemployment's gone up. With your freeform of ideas, how do you think it's going to help people at the moment, who are in this current economic challenges? How can it help people who are having challenges either in a career or in the business?
The idea of free forum ideas is little slogan we have, you can find facts faster. I mean, the site is relatively new, but it contains a large amount of information, which of course you can access from home. But also it's a community. The idea is that you ask questions, you swap information. By that you meet people. And through the forum, you can have business connections with other business people, which will be mutually beneficial.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that, John. I myself am a professional copywriter, but what I'm passionate about is helping people become more effective influencers, because I think in business, you need to be able to influence your audience to engage with you, to listen to what you have to say, to follow you, and to buy your product or service. Because if you can't sell your product or service, you won't be in business for long. So you really have to be actively able to influence your audience all the time. And that's the same in life. If you want to be able to get a job, to influence the interviews. If you want to get a promotion, be able to influence your boss. So I'm really passionate about the whole subject of influence. It does fascinate me. I wrote a book which I published this year called Secret Influence, Communicate Plays Power. And I regularly share tips on writing influence. So my next question, John, is as an active contributor to my copywriting group, what do you feel about the importance of communications, communicating and influencing in business?
Well, Nick, moving into an area that you are the expert, but I believe communication in business is vital. Everybody in business needs to communicate, whether that's communicating with your employees, colleagues, whether it's communicating with investors, lenders, whether it's communicating to inspire people about your idea. It's absolutely vital to be a good communicator. And a question maybe I can put to you, Nick. There's this debate about soft skills versus hard skills. And who's going to rise to the top of the business tree? Is it going to be the person who's got technical expertise, but perhaps can't communicate these ideas? Or is it going to be the person who is a good communicator and not only has some business ideas, but is able to communicate them to others? Who gets to the top of the business tree? What's your view on that?
Well, it's a great question, John. I heard a story very recently about a famous British film director, who I won't name, but the story is that when he started out, he was pitching his first film to investors, and this is the film that made him famous. It did very well, and but he wasn't very good at communications and presentations, so he didn't manage to get any investment, and he went to pitch after pitch, and he just didn't manage to engage with them, and he just didn't have the confidence and the communication skills to sell his idea clearly. So at one of the meetings, he's getting very frustrated, and without the investment, he couldn't make the film. And one of the meetings, I think it's his fifth meeting, someone from the meeting came up to him and said, "I actually think you've got a great concept here. I think your film idea and your script is really brilliant, but you're clearly struggling to communicate it. Why don't I help you with your presentations, and then you can improve your pitch." So this person worked with the director and went to the pitches with him and trained him, and he got the funding, and he made the film, which made him famous, and now this sort of 15 years later, he's obviously a lot more confident, and he's got better communication skills, probably had training. But I think it was an interesting story that sometimes you do. I think they're both important, hard skills and soft skills. But this story just sort of illustrates that his film would never got made if someone hadn't helped him with those soft skills of communication. So it's tricky. I think they're both really important. I mean, ideally in life, I think you need a certain amount of hard skills in whatever area you work, your expertise you have, but you do need the soft skills of sort of communicating, and that's interesting. But it's a great question, John. Definitely. I think it's interesting. When you see a lot of people from some of the big tech companies, like Apple, Google, who started off as very tech. Even Bill Gates, he's a very tech person. He started off as obviously a computer programmer, and went on later in his life, as his success grew, to speak on stage and do big presentations, a lot of philanthropy. But when he started off, obviously, he wasn't. I remember reading his autobiography, and he said, that he was a nerdy computer programmer, and he wasn't very confident at university, wasn't very sociable, So it's interesting, but obviously, as his success grew, Bill Gates obviously developed those soft skills, and obviously had to develop them. So, it's an interesting question, John. Yeah. Talking about sort of soft skills and hard skills, I think we all have people we admire in life, and can inspire us, or even mentors who we learn things off. And what makes a successful person? We all have different ideas. What do you think, John? What attributes do you think successful people have in common?
In my experience, Nick, it's interesting that I've known a lot of successful business people, obviously. And I think the interesting thing about them is that they're so different. They may be successful at business, but they're so different. I mean, you just have to consider, for example, Warren Buffett and Elon Musk. You couldn't think of two more different people, yet both hugely successful. So some people that I've known have been obsessed with facts and figures. They detail people, they analyze every fact and figure. Others are people who can anticipate trends and capitalize on those business trends. Others I've known have been good deal makers. They have that keen eye for the good investment or the profitable deal. Others, of course, have been technical, used their technical skills. They might have been people who've inventors or something come out of the university which has spun out into a different business, into a successful business. So they're all different, but they do have some things in common. And I would suggest, for example, they all have energy, stamina, and enthusiasm for their work. Of course, they've got the ability to execute their ideas into a good business. They have that ability to communicate, which we've discussed, to communicate the vision to their lenders, partners, and so on. They also, I think you need an understanding of and a sympathy with your market, your target market, and overwhelmingly, you need to be able to sell. I think we're a bit funny about this in the UK. People are a bit funny about selling. Oh, you know, that's a bit hard. That's a hard sell. Look, we're all selling if we're in business in one way or the other. And all successful business people know how to sell.
No,
And lastly, a true understanding of business fundamentals, gross profit, cash flow, things like that, which surprisingly a lot of not too successful business people don't have those skills, but that's basic. So I'd venture those as some of the issues. But something I'd like to ask you now, Nick. It's this question of, are you born with these skills or can you learn them? I think it's summed up in the nature versus nurture aspect. Is an entrepreneur born or can he or she be made? What do you think?
Another great question, it's certainly a commonly discussed debate about sort of nurture versus nature with our personality and leaders and entrepreneurs, or we're naturally born with the skills for that. Or I think that you can learn these skills. I definitely believe. I believe some people are naturally more confident, when some people are naturally more introverted. I think there is, to an extent, we are born with certain traits, and part of that is reinforce our upbringing. But I do believe that whatever if you're naturally born an introvert, for example, I do believe that you can develop confidence and leadership. So you can learn any skill in life if you're committed. So whether that's soft skills or hard skills, you could certainly, a shy person could certainly step up and become an inspirational leader. I think anything is possible. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a mix, but I certainly believe that whatever you are like as perhaps a child, as a young age, and what your personality is and what your character is, I think that if you can definitely by learning and putting yourself in the right environment, you can develop to be an entrepreneur, a leader, or someone who inspires others. So yeah, I definitely believe that you can, if you lead. I think it goes back to what you said, John, about energy, stamina, and enthusiasm. I think to be.
It helps if you're born with those.
It does help you born those, but certainly having those. That's, I think that's what comes back to why it's so important. Sort of a mindset thing is that working in business is hard, and life is stretched, can be challenging at times. So having that stamina and that enthusiasm, keep going, and to believe in your message. Because if you don't believe in your product or service, then no one else is. You've got to obviously believe in what you're doing and what you're selling. And have that energy to keep going and that stamina to keep going, because I think all products and services, they're about solving a problem, and that's why it's important to find the right market, because it's find the right people where your product service is going to be a solution for, and there are a lot of I think the point you said about selling is fascinating, because I think there is a fear around selling. We do hold back and we do find it hard. A lot of people do find it hard, but business is all about selling, because if we don't sell our product or service, we're not going to make any money, not going to stay in business. And even sort of charities, they have to fundraise constantly to keep going, so they have to sell their, even charities have to sell key messages and sell what they're doing in that sense. So yeah, selling is so important, and it's I think people think it's about hard sell all the time, but like you said, it's actually about showing the value of what you do, and how whatever you do is going to solve a problem for your target audience. I mean, I could talk about this for hours, though. I do find it fascinating, and we'll definitely have to have another catch up soon about this, John. It really does interest me. So, perhaps moving on to my sort of last question. Do you have any tips, top tips that you can share for people who are starting out on how to be more successful in business?
Well, it's difficult to generalize, of course, but I have a few ideas that I'll put to you. I think, firstly, learn all you can about your own business. What are your profitable lines or ventures? What drives your business? What are the unprofitable things that you've been doing perhaps for a while but haven't really looked at? If they're not profitable, cut them out, move on. Secondly, I'll use a sporting analogy here. Play with your head up. Don't be bogged down with the day-to-day. Have a broader vision of the opportunities that you might have. Another one, I think a lot of people fall for this idea that passion is everything. If you read on the net in entrepreneurship and so on, oh, be passionate about, be passionate. Okay, it's important to be passionate, but don't be fooled. Passion is not enough. Your business model must be viable for you to be successful. Another thing is retain your enthusiasm. I heard someone say that politicians campaign in poetry and govern in prose. It's a little bit like our businesses. We start up in poetry and enthusiasm, but running a business is more like prose. You've got to get to like that prose and stick to it. Stick with what you're doing, persist. Finally, think of a great idea, maybe like Airbnb, for example, and find a young computer genius to turn it into a reality for you, and then execute that business and make a fortune.
I'll tell you what, I was jotting away there. I hope everyone watching this video was taking notes, because all the points John has shared are things that can be implemented. They are practical, some no nonsense tips. That's not just, it's based on a lifetime of experience of working in business. So John's clearly someone knows talking about, and these points are ones that we should all be writing down and putting next to our computer and implementing. So the website, free from forumofideas.com. It's going to be in the link below this video. This is the end of the interview, but I've really enjoyed chatting to you, John, and I think it's you've shared so much great tips, so much information, and really helpful sort of suggestions to people who are starting off and how to move forward and be more successful in their business. So if anyone's watching this, check out the website, People of Ideas. You can reach out to John through the website, or myself. I have, like I say, a copywriting group on Facebook, #1 Copywriting Community, and you're welcome to get in touch with myself. And there'll be another video coming up next week on Secret Plus TV. So thank you very much, and that concludes the interview. Thank you.